together and we could hear each other sing.
Indeed.
I mean, this is great. Don't get me wrong, but I think all being able to sing together would be wonderful. So our practitioner of the day is Maureen Bishop, and she's going to do our opening prayer, and I will post her quotes, beautiful quotes that she chose for us. So there you go, Maureen.
Okay, can you hear me all right? Well, let's just, a beautiful day here. I'm sure it's beautiful there. Let's get comfortable. And wherever we're sitting, just take a deep breath and join me in consciousness. And just know with me, oh, that we are life. We are life expressing, and there's only one. There's only one life in the universe, God's life, which is our life. So I'm speaking these words for all of you when I say, I am one with this life. I am one with a bigger life than I can even imagine. So today and every day I open the shutters, I open the door, I open my mind to a greater expression of the divine, which is in me. I'm one with it. I've always been one with it. I've always been guided, and I open my ears to hear and my eyes to see. I am so grateful for this unity with the one, and I'm so grateful for all the possibilities and the new vision. I light a torch. I light a torch for new visions this week and the weeks ahead, because I am bigger than I can imagine. But step by step, I am guided to that greatness, that expression of the greatest spirit in me, as me, and through me. So I give great gratitude. Thank you, God, for this expression of life and these expressions of all these possibilities that are unfolding now. Thank you, God. I know this is so, and together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
So the quote I chose today is from Ernest. It's from the Science of Mind textbook. And it says, ignorance stays with us until the day of enlightenment, until our vision toward the spirit broadens and casts out the image of a no longer useful littleness. Let me say that part again. Casts out the image of a no longer useful littleness. Sometimes we act little, and it's time to let go of little. So what we now experience, we may cease experiencing if we have the will and the imagination to set our vision in an opposite direction and hold it there. It's the office of the imagination to set the vision. The will should hold it in place until the creative genius of the inner life, the creative process, transforms the image of limitation and transmutes it into liberty under law. So really, it's kind of what Jackie always says, Ways and Means Committee. So it's for us, to have a vision of a bigger life, have a vision of something greater, because we are Spirit's highest vision of itself, just expressing through each of us. We're all God in this amazing disguise, and we're all perfect. We are so perfect. And the last quote is, today, the possibilities of my experience are unlimited. And I look back at a year ago today when we hurriedly left Mexico because of COVID and, threats of closure of the border. And who would have thought a year ago we would be sitting in Waikiki, enjoying this most beautiful and abundant state of Hawaii, and contemplating buying a condo here. So life is full of possibilities, and I just, I need to take the time to listen, to open up, but to listen, because I know I am guided. I know you are. So I just give thanks for that. The possibilities. So we are to do a little, what do we call it? Centering. We're to do a little centering right now and to close our eyes again. And I want you to envision again a torch. I want you to see a torch like the one in the Olympics. And it's lighting this, but it doesn't consume. It's like the burning bush. And you're going to light this beautiful bowl that has all these sparkling, wonderful gems of possibilities. And you're going to light that bowl of gems, and those gems, those visions are on fire, but it's not a hot fire. It's just like the burning bush. It's a cool fire. It's a fire of recognition in your mind of how you can do even greater still. Remember what Jesus said, what I do, you can do greater still. So as we come back into the room, I hope you saw some sparkling visions, some sparkling gems, possibilities. So thank you. Let's read March's affirmation together. I live in wide-eyed wonder of the possibilities of life. Today, I express the possibilities of the wholeness of life within me. I am grateful for all the good that I can imagine and all that I have yet to imagine. As it becomes my expanding experience of good, so it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. It was beautiful. I love the quote that you picked was so perfect. Couldn't have been more perfect. And Richard has, so I asked Richard to do this song. It's an old song by the Stylistics. You probably know it. Stop, look, listen to your heart, hear what it say. Because originally, well, I'll tell you more when I do my message, but originally I was going to do one topic, and then after Mom passed, I kind of changed gears, but it still applies. So Richard did his very best, I think, because I didn't have the sheet music. So, but Richard is so awesome and talented that I'm sure he did a wonderful job. Take it away, Richard.
Thank you. We transcribed that song. I was vaguely familiar with the Stylistics. It had been a while. You know, back in '71 is when this particular song came out. Stop, listen, stop, look, listen. They had a song called "You Make Me Feel Brand New," which was one of their big ones. You know. Anyway, this is about getting out of our comfort zone, about love, more love. You're alone all the time. Does it ever puzzle you? Have you asked why you seem to fall in love and out again? Do you ever really love or just pretend. Why fool yourself? Don't be afraid to help yourself. It's never too late to stop. Look, listen to your heart and what it's saying. Stop, look, listen to your heart, hear what it's saying. Love, love, love. Though you try, you can't hide all the things you really feel. This time decide that you will open up. Let it in. There's no shame in sharing love you keep within. So jump right in, head over heels, and fall right in. It's never too late to stop. Look, listen to your heart and what it's saying. Stop, look, listen to your heart, hear what it's saying. Love, love. Though you try, you can't hide all the things you really feel. This time decide that you will open up. Let it in. There's no shame in sharing love that you keep within. So jump right in, head over heels, and fall right in. It's never too late to stop. Right. Listen to your heart, what it's saying. Stop. Look, listen to your heart and what it's saying. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Beautiful song.
Thank you, Richard. It is a beautiful song. Stop, look, listen to your heart, hear what it's saying. So good morning again, and welcome to One Heart, One Mind, Center for Spiritual Living's online Sunday service on this beautiful, but a little bit cloudy Sunday in March. It is down here. I don't know how it is where you are. But March has a wonderful theme, and it is open to possibilities. You know, I can just feel the expansion as I say that. Can you feel it? Open to possibilities. I love that. And today's talk is living in the question, which also brings up feelings of curiosity and interest and wonder, you know, and I like that too. This, it feels very expansive to me. So I guess March will be a month of expansion. So on Monday, I sat down, as I always do, and I started thinking about the new theme and the topic and about what I wanted to talk about this morning. What's the Sunday message going to be? And I had settled on a topic, and I was going to talk about the spiritual practice of visioning, which is, most of you are familiar, but it's a practice of connecting with our source, the source within us, whatever we conceive that to be, and moving into kind of a quiet, contemplative state, a meditative state, if you will, consciously opening to our intuitive knowing, that just happens within us, that comes from that connection, and then asking empowering questions about something that's relevant to our lives, to be open to possibilities and living in the question. So that's why I originally asked Richard to play that song, because I thought stop, look, listen to your heart was a perfect way of describing visioning. Pretty much describes it. And then life changed quickly, as it sometimes has a way of doing. And my mother, Lenita Ingalls, who many of you knew, she made her transition on Wednesday, March 4th at 4:07 in the afternoon. She let go of her last breath in this life, on this planet. And that event dramatically changed how I wanted to deliver this message today, dramatically changed what I wanted to say. So I'd like to dedicate this morning's service to my mom. And I'd also like to invite you to think of someone in your life who's had a memorable impact on your life. You know, I was thinking of someone who's made their transition, although it doesn't have to be, but someone that you'd like to honor this morning. And at the end of the service, I thought we could take a few moments to say their names out loud in an atmosphere of loving gratitude. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and draw to mind who you might want to dedicate and honor this morning. Who might be fresh on the edge of your memory? Are you thinking? So I'll save the topic of visioning until next week. And this week, I'm going to talk about what I learned from my mother about life, possibility, and living in the question. And my siblings, I have 6 siblings, and I learned a lot from Mom about these particular subjects, but not necessarily from what she said, but from how she lived her life and from her actions in the world. You know, she lived the principles of being open to infinite possibilities. She lived in the openness of the questions of life in a way that kind of brought them alive for her and for all of us too. She brought that curiosity and that open nature to everything she did, and she shared that with her family, and actually she shared it with anybody she met. She just had that kind of upbeat, optimistic vibe about her. The way Mom impacted my life personally was very positive. You know, I grew up believing that pretty much anything was possible, and because I want to give credit where credit is due, I feel that at this point, I really should mention my grandmother, my mother's mother. My grandma Eleanor was also a particularly bright light. I found out later in life that she used to go and listen to Ernest Holmes. She lived in the LA area when he was speaking, which was kind of cool. But she taught my mother how to love unconditionally and without exception. And that's the way my mom was raised. Unconditional love, acceptance, and support was my grandmother's legacy, and now it's my mother's legacy, and I want it to be my legacy as well for my children and my grandchildren. My grandmother Eleanor moved to California from Texas when my mom was only 5 years old. She had divorced her husband and left him in Texas, and she came out to California. And a single mother in the 1930s was not all that common, and it was not all that well accepted either. But Eleanor made it work. She worked really hard, and she eventually owned her own cafeteria-style restaurant. And she became a single mother and a business owner in the 1940s, which was really unusual. And I remember going to her restaurant when I was just a little girl. And so it must have been in the 50s as well, because I wasn't born until 55. And my older sister and I would peel carrots and potatoes. And we thought we were a pretty big deal because we were working in grandma's restaurant, you know. And the powerful piece about my grandmother and what I believe about her legacy is this. My grandmother employed a lot of people. But every now and then, she would take someone under her wing, who was kind of down and out, someone who really needed love and support, and she would employ them. And she also let them live in her house. I remember lots of different people who came and went who had lived with grandma. And she would teach them, she would just be present with them. And once their self-confidence and their belief in possibilities were restored, then they would be on their way. And I watched this cycle over and over again throughout my childhood. And this is the atmosphere that my mother was raised in. And it's no wonder she had such an upbeat, can-do attitude about life and what was possible. And that's what I learned from her. And that is the principle that I try to emulate throughout my own life. I learned from my mother that there is a power in the universe greater than we are. And through conscious connection with this power, life becomes an endless flow of possibilities. There's nothing that we can't become or accomplish. And I learned that life is about supporting others and sharing with others. And that's why we're here. That's what I learned from her. I also learned that it's okay to explore your spirituality and what works for you personally and what that means to you personally. It's exactly what my mother did. When my mother was 9 years old, she used to love to tell this story. When she was 9 years old, she converted herself to Catholicism. She told the story about how when she first walked in, she went to church with one of her neighbors, I believe, who had children her age. And they walked into the Catholic church. She walked into the Catholic church for the first time. And she said she just felt at home, which is exactly how I felt the first time I walked into a church of religious science. But she didn't stop there either. She kept questioning and she kept exploring. And when she was in her mid-40s, she and my father started attending a Unity church when they lived in Mesa, Arizona. And that began another leg of her spiritual journey. Endless possibilities was kind of the theme of her life. And that's how she lived. And that's what she taught us. That's what she taught me. And it has really served me well throughout my life. So I want to tell a little story about my brother. My brother Jeffrey, he lives in Arizona now too. And it kind of illustrates the kind of openness and possibility that she taught all of her kids, and it's a story about mom making her transition. So as most of you know, mom developed dementia, Alzheimer's, later in her life. And it really started to escalate after my father made his transition in 2014. And as many of you know, mom lived down here in Escondido at an assisted living facility for quite a while after we came down. And then about 3 years ago, when her dementia progressed to the point where she really needed more care, at that time she moved up to Bakersfield, and she's been living with my sister and her family. And she did so until she passed this past week. When COVID hit, my siblings and I started getting together regularly on Zoom. I mean, we could have done it all the time, but for some reason that just dawned on us, oh yeah, we can visit on Zoom. So we started connecting on a regular basis. And one of the topics that always came up was, how's mom doing? And we'd ponder how much longer she'd be with us. And as her condition worsened, we kind of looked forward to the day when she would just let go and make her transition so she could go and be with dad. She wasn't comfortable. She was always kind of agitated, and we wanted her to be happy, and she was really living a life of confusion. So on one of our Zoom calls in January, my brother Jeffrey shared that he had an unusual experience. He was walking through his kitchen when all of a sudden he heard the words loud and clear, March 3rd. I remember I shared that it was March 4th, but my brother told me I was wrong. It was March 3rd. So he heard the words March 3rd. And he said it was so loud, he turned around to see who was there, but of course no one was there. So he just kind of shook it off and walked on. And then he heard the word mom. And he recalled that he was certain that dad was there telling him that mom was going to make her transition on March 3rd. he said that he had originally, the whole experience had happened in November, but that he hadn't shared it with us until January because he didn't want any of us to think he was crazy, which of course we would not have thought he was crazy. None of us did. So as March 3rd got closer and closer and Mom's condition deteriorated, we all began to wonder if March 3rd was indeed the date. And as I shared earlier, she did make her transition on March 3rd. And I have to wonder if the openness in which we were all raised played a role in Jeffrey's ability to hear the message and to trust that it was possible to receive a message from what we might call the other side. But I believe living open to possibilities contribute to Jeffrey's ability to be able to receive that message, because he didn't close it off and didn't think, oh, that's crazy. So as kids, we were taught to be open to everything, even if it felt difficult or impossible. We were taught not to listen. Actually, we were shown what to do more than we were taught, or we were audibly taught. But we were kind of taught not to listen to the noise of the world around us, and to truly believe in ourselves and what we could accomplish. And as children, we witnessed what was possible over and over again as my parents did things that were often not very conventional or traditional at all, or what most people thought was really the right path for them to take. We moved a lot. My dad went back to college when they already had 6 children. My mother went back to work. It was very unconventional, and all through their marriage, my parents made those kinds of decisions that were against the grain culturally or conventionally, let's say. My parents valued ideas and change, and it was evident that they took the time to listen to their inner voice and to the pull of that, what's next? There was always an atmosphere of possibility, a resonance of what's possible in the air in our family. And don't get me wrong, we had our issues just like any other family. We certainly were far from perfect, but there was that underlying message that we could do anything, and I'm so grateful for that. I ran across this quote from John F. Kennedy that made me think of the atmosphere that I grew up in, to not be afraid to try new things, even if they seem difficult, but to trust the pull of the new idea and to the best of our ability to follow through with it. And that has always bolstered my belief in the spiritual principle that life flows through us and supports us when we make a decision to move in a certain direction. Just setting that intention and allowing the life force to move through draws it into experience, draws it into our lives. So the quote that I'm going to share with you from John F. Kennedy was about going to the moon, which actually is a pretty good metaphor for doing something that seems impossible. So I'm going to share the quote with you, if I can find it here. Here it is. Let's see what I got. So he said this: we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure. I love that line. That goal, that intention will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because the challenge is one that we are willing to accept. Willingness. And to channel our energies and skills. Once we make that decision, everything lines up to support it. The decision itself organizes and measures the power of spirit moving through us to bring about the demonstration. When I was growing up, there was an undaunting spirit of can-do, a resonance of possibility in our household that I truly appreciated having experienced. I appreciate that I was raised in that attitude, and it supported me in charting my own course in life and to set a course over and over again when I needed to, that nothing was ever final. Well, that happened, so that must be God's will. No, it isn't. It's just the beginning point. It's the jumping off place. So I learned so much from growing up in that atmosphere of can do. And I also learned from my mother a deeper truth, a deeper reality. Um, she had an inner spirituality. As I said, she converted herself to Catholicism when she was 9 because that resonated with her, and I recall even when I was around 9 or 10, having these long conversations with my mother and my older sister about spirituality. We would also often stay up until like 11 o'clock at night, which seemed like so late to me at the time, way past my bedtime, talking about the nature of God and how it worked in our lives, and back then my mother was a devout Catholic. So often there were things that didn't really resonate with me, but I always felt comfortable to experience and explore my own opinion and what I believed, even when it didn't exactly match what she believed or my sister believed. So there was always permission there to explore how I felt. And Mom made me feel like the spiritual journey that I was on was okay, even if it didn't match hers. Don't get me wrong, she was definitely a Catholic and she insisted that I attend Mass and go to Catholic school. But I did feel that I could openly express my own thoughts and questions about God and spirituality. She gave me that gift of being able to explore it myself. So when I was 16, I felt comfortable telling her that I didn't want to be Catholic anymore, that it didn't speak to me, and that I didn't want to be involved in the church anymore. I remember that she didn't actually take it that well initially. She kind of, I think it really took her by surprise. And she wanted to know, well, if I didn't believe in Catholicism, then what did I believe in? Which was a very empowering question for me because it kept me open to find the answers. It encouraged me to continue to explore what I believed and think about the purpose of life. Well, what do I really believe? What is the purpose of my life? And it encouraged me to never stop questioning. And as most of you know, I never have, and I still question today. It really was a very valuable and necessary part of my spiritual journey, even today. And I do believe it gave me permission to be curious and to stay curious. And it contributed to my ability to take that long path that I have walked. Originally I said I was an atheist because I didn't like the Catholic God and that didn't resonate with me. And so I had this kind of atheistic fervor. And then as I continued to explore, that kind of softened and I became an agnostic and I was like, does it really matter? I really don't care. And then I started searching in other ways, searching through what I called the back door. I started getting involved with astrology and numerology and the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And I kind of came into new thought from that back door. But it was because I stayed curious. It was because I believed that anything was possible that I kept exploring. And that led me to new thought and to metaphysics, which opened the door to the exploration of Eastern and Western traditions of all kind. I just think it was just such a perfect path to be curious and willing to explore whatever was in front of me. And I think this is a huge lesson for everyone, not just for me, that this spiritual journey doesn't ever end. It's an unfolding mystery of discovery and wonder that it truly can sustain and satisfy us in ways that are wonderful if we just allow it to. If we say, okay, I'll entertain that idea. I'm not closed off. And because my father loved science and my mother loved God and spirituality, New Thought was the perfect blending of the two worlds for me. It didn't pit science and spirituality against each other, but blended them together as one and the same, a perfect marriage of data and order and the mystical and the mystery, which I find absolutely fascinating, even more today than I ever have. Recently, I was watching, I've shared before that I like to watch YouTube videos. I'm always searching for new stuff as I get on the treadmill. And recently I was watching a video about David Bohm, who was, I had heard the name before, but I wasn't really that familiar until I watched the video. But he was a very significant figure in theoretical physics in the 20th century. Albert Einstein called him, they worked together at Princeton. I think, is it Princeton? Yeah. And he called him his spiritual son. And the video gave me some great new language. I couldn't wait to share it with you, to help me describe this idea of the field of infinite possibility, God, spirit, whatever we want to call it. And the field that I believe my parents tapped into throughout their lives when they were open to whatever was coming along. And it's the same power that Science of Mind teaches, that is causal to everything, that exists in the physical realm, that invisible cause that creates everything that's visible. So Bohm, along with the rest of the scientific world at the time, he was trying to find a connection between the laws of Newtonian physics that ordered and operated in the physical world and the theories of quantum physics, which explain the world of probability and creation itself. And Bohm believed that there was an order that unified both worlds. So he began by looking for what these two theories had in common. I'm getting a little deeper than I kind of wanted to, but that's okay. Science is fun. So, and he called this commonality the undivided whole, which of course for any metaphysician sounds very familiar. And the new language that I learned from him is that he called the quantum world, the realm, the field of infinite potential, or the realm of possibilities, he called it the implicate order, the enfolded order. I love that idea of everything folded into this one order, this one realm, if you will. And he called it the realm beyond time and space. So the elements of time and space were not prominent factors in this enfolded order. And then he called the physical, the larger world, the world where the laws of Newtonian physics fit. He called that the explicate order, or the unfolded order, the realm that includes the things that we humans normally perceive, which just further validates for me the idea that there is a power and a present which is causal to all of life. And its potential is infinite in nature. And its presence is still present within all of its creation. We can feel it when we just walk in nature. So this enfolded order, I love that idea. This enfolded order gives rise to this unfolded order. Fascinating. I just had to throw a little science in there today. But that was new language for me, and I found it very useful. So the last thing I want to talk about was another lesson that I mentioned earlier, a valuable lesson that I learned from my mother. What I learned from her and from my grandmother is that life is about supporting each other and sharing with each other, and that's why we're here. She taught me in so many ways that we don't just treat someone well when they're in our presence. We act and behave equitably and justly, even when no one is watching. We care and support each other, even when no one sees our actions. When we lived in West Covina, I was probably 10 or 12 at the time, somewhere around there. And my mother would occasionally go to this store where they sold this great big red thick rope licorice, and everyone loved it. They sold it by the foot, and she would get that for us, and it was like this big treat. She would bring it home and she'd divide it up for all of us. And even if one of the 7 kids didn't happen to be there right then, she would always break off their portion and save it for them until they got home. She taught all of us that we care and support each other even when the other person isn't there. That there is an unbreakable connection, an undivided whole that is always honored and appreciated no matter what the circumstance. And this idea has served to shape me and connect me to my friends and my family and my spiritual community in ways that I can't even really articulate. I feel at home and one with all of you because my beloved mother taught me about the nature of life and the qualities of good that are endlessly available to us and through us when we are connected to each other, and to the potential and the possibilities of life that we have yet to tap into, but are always there. So I just want to end with Godspeed, mommy girl. I love you. Thank you for leaving me a legacy of the vibration and the resonance of what is possible and the connection of unconditional love. I truly appreciate it. So let's pray. I know that there is only one life, there is only one presence and one power. There is only one energy that moves in and through all of creation. It is this enfolded wholeness, this undivided wholeness that moves out into the unfolded creative energy of the physical world. Oh, and we are one with it. It is beautiful, it is wise, it is continuous, it is creative, it is juicy, it is everything. It is joy, and it is wonder, and it is deep, deep peace and satisfaction. We are one with it. We are inseparable from this creative force and energy. So I speak my word for and about each and every person that is here on this call and each and every person that is not. I speak my word for our beloved Mother Earth, for our beloved United States of America and all the countries that are upon her face, that are centered on this beautiful Mother Earth. I speak my word for each and every person right here that I can visibly see, and all those that I cannot visibly see, but that I feel my connection with and my presence. That there is a shift in consciousness that releases anything that stands in the way of the full flow and the full allowing of this beautiful thing we call life, God's spirit, to move through us in the most unimaginable ways. For what we have yet to imagine is bursting through us in ways that we experience as joy and love and connection and belonging and beauty and good and good and good and good. And I'm just so deeply grateful for this. It touches me at the very heart of my being. Thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I release this prayer into the capable hands of law, knowing that it is already so, and that it makes its way into demonstration. And I signify and ask you to signify your agreement by saying with me, and so it is. Gotta take a deep breath. So I got tears. I gotta have to get rid of those so I can see. So I gotta take a minute. Hey, Leslie, would you want to do the offertory? I'm going to hand it over to you. I know it's last minute.
Do we have another song from Richard before that, though? No? Okay. This is the time of giving back to that which feeds us spiritually in the form of one heart, one mind. And these on the screen are the different ways that you can give. You can give through Venmo or Tidally, or you can send a check to Jim Massifust on that. And so we encourage you to please give from your heart what it is that you wish to give on this. So, and let's say together our sacred giving affirmation. I recognize that my gift is an instrument of the energy and love of God, As it flows from me, it uplifts and advances all life, including mine. I give and receive joyously. I am so grateful, and so it is. Hmm.
Do you have any announcements, Leslie?
Yes, I do. We have lots of possibilities that we share here in this center. And one of those is being presented this Tuesday evening by uh, Relaine and Morgan. And they're going to do a presentation on compassion this week. And that's at 6 o'clock on Zoom. And then Wednesday, if it's all right, I am going to turn it over to Maureen to tell us about our Wednesday night class.
Okay, Wednesday night, we're taking it from a book. I don't have the book to show you right now, but it's What If It All Goes Right? So we're going to learn how to up it instead of downing it, instead of being negative, which we tend to, or the what if is going to be what if positive. So I'll be teaching that technique. It's the author is Unity Minister, and I hope you enjoy it. We're going to be doing some practical application.
Thank you, Maureen. A reminder that if you would like to have a spiritual mind treatment with a practitioner, that is possible. What you do is you go to the chat area to whoever the hostess is and let them know that that is what you would like to do. And what happens is you are put into a digital room where no one can hear your conversation. It's just the two of you. And then you can talk with the practitioner and have your spiritual mind treatment. And that's all I have for today.
Wonderful. And I'm trying to remember who, let me see, who is doing the closing prayer? It's Lisa.
Sorry, it wouldn't unclick.
Problem.
Okay, if we could all do a quick centering breath. I am so grateful for the presence of the presence in each person on this call and for the community that we have created that surround each and every one of us and blesses us. And we are blessed by this service and by Reverend Michelle's sharing of her journey and reminding us of the people that we have loved who have given so much to us in our lifetime. And so as we awaken together in recognition of the love, joy, and clarity that is available to us by opening our heart and mind with trust in that one power and presence that's always present. I know that we are grateful to be knowing this power that can make a way out of no way. And that no matter what our questions or dilemmas, because we are one with this one, there's always an answer, always a possibility. And so we go forth in a spirit of joyful expectancy for the possibilities that await us in the coming days and weeks on our soulful journey. And so I release my word into the law, knowing it's done, and we release together by saying, and so it is.
Yeah. So I wanted to thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Perfect. I wanted to use this time to speak our names that I invited us to think about earlier into the space. I want to speak my mother's name, Lenita Joyce Ingalls. I love you. And just unmute and say your name.
Betty Berg.
Rose Palkovic.
Geraldine Massapust.
Ralph
Cooper
Blaisdell.
McGregor.
Ralph Blaisdell.
Aunt Marjorie.
My real mother, Hildegard Lüdecke, and my American mother, Charlotte Samuelson.
Beatrice, Ruth, and Robert Bishop.
Clarence Cornelius.
John Carpenter.
Bill Clark.
Linda.
Lorraine and Gilbert.
My mother, Lottie
Bryden.
Mae Skelton Brown, and my father, Joseph William Brown.
Who spoke just before Robert? I didn't hear the name.
Lorraine and Gilbert Weidman, my parents.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
I'd like to say God.
Sarah, do you have someone?
Clarence Cornelius.
Oh, that's where that name came from. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else before we move on? Robert Ingalls, my dad, passed as well. All right. Okay, Richard is going to end our service with Blessed Always. I love that. I'll share the lyric.
And here's to any number of musician friends of mine that have passed away. Love to them. Okay, here we go. Blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. Blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So, Jim, during our social time, should we turn off the recording and anybody have anything that they'd like to just share with the